Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that Resident Evil 5 Remake is around the corner, and I'm not the only one who thinks that, because we have an article here by GameRant that says why a Resident Evil 5 Remake seems like it might be around the corner. And obviously thinking about all of the references to 5 storyline in Resident Evil 4 Remake, I can absolutely agree with this. And obviously, thinking about the various nods, various references Resident Evil 4 Remake has made to the story of Resident Evil 5, again, characters, quotes, and all that kind of stuff, I can definitely see where this headline is coming from. So let's get into this article by GameRant, but before we do, if you are new here, just consider leaving me a subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that, and like the video to push us on out into that YouTube algorithm. And also stay tuned to the end of the video, because I did read this article the other day, and there are a few comments from a certain account in the comment section here, going on an absolutely unhinged rampage, or meltdown, whatever you want to call it, and oh my god, my brother and I were reading this article yesterday, we did read the comments yesterday as well, and oh my god, we were literally laughing our asses off at the brain dead comments. So if you do want to see my 2 cents and reactions to that comments, stay tuned to the end of the video. But anyway, the article does go on ahead and say, the Resident Evil franchise has been hitting its stride lately, following the landmark success of Resident Evil 4. The franchise stumbled a bit with Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, which many fans consider to lean far too much in the action side of the action horror equation. See, I personally don't understand that argument, landing too far in the action side. That's such a petty thing to complain about. I never understood that argument there. It goes on and continues. That's not to say that they are bad games, but only that they depart greatly from what a large portion of the player base was expecting from Resident Evil. I mean, sure, whatever. But they are, at the end of the day, still Resident Evil games. They were both fantastic in their own right. Great storytelling, okay gameplay. In 5, 6, in my personal opinion, was phenomenal gameplay, in my personal opinion. The freedom to do just about anything in that game is so cool. But I just don't understand the levied disinterest and hatred towards these two titles. It just does not make any sense to me whatsoever. Even discussing action, who cares? Which I know, people do care, but I don't understand why. Anyway, the article does go on and continue. Then came Resident Evil 7, which was effectively a soft reboot of the franchise, succeeded by Resident Evil 8 Village just a few years later. But there's been another key pillar of modern Resident Evil's construction that can't be overlooked: remakes. Starting with the Resident Evil 2 remake in 2019, Capcom has worked its way through the games in order, with the incredibly well-received Resident Evil 4 remake being the studio's most recent endeavor. Ever since Resident Evil 4 remake's rumors and speculations have run rampant as audience try to guess where the franchise is going to next. Chances are it'll look back to Resident Evil 5, which, yes, that is absolutely true. We can see, as I mentioned earlier at the latter half of this video, all of the references and nods they made to the story of Resident Evil 5. Not just story, even the quotes and characters that you could see or hear in Resident Evil 5. Like, we have the Separate Ways DLC's end credit scene where we saw Albert Wesker kind of talking about his plans with obtaining Jack Krauser's dead corpse, going to extract the Las Plagas sample in order to create Ouroboros. And of course, on that screen, we were able to see the Stairway to the Sun that we saw in Resident Evil 5 that Chris and Sheva were able to go on and investigate, as well as an image of Excella Gione. We don't know if that's a remake model of Excella that they already have, or maybe it's just a, I guess, drawing, if you will. But of course, we also had Albert Wesker in Separate Ways, literally referencing the complete global saturation quote near right before the very ending of the game, which was also very, very cool to see. He also talked about how the weak deserve to serve the strong, which is kind of the case of Udabudus in totality. And yeah, just references like such. But anyway, the article does continue. A Resident Evil 5 remake seems likely, and just not for the obvious reasons. Wesker is back in action in 2023's Resident Evil 4. Naturally, one would assume that Capcom will tackle Resident Evil 5 at some point, as the previous 3 titles have seen great critical and commercial success thus far, but Capcom would very well choose to remake the first Resident Evil to make it more aligned with the modern interpretations of its successors, or it could remake a spin-off like Resident Evil Revelations or Resident Evil Code Veronica. See, the article does go on ahead and suggest these things, but I've seen some pretty insane comments, which I'll talk about at the very bottom of this article, which there are a person leaving some incredibly brain dead statements. But with that in mind, one thing I will give Game Rant for this one is they just used it as a suggestion. They don't bring Albert Wesker into the equation like he's the whole thing and claim that he wasn't in Resident Evil 4 Remake a lot, which he kind of was, let's be perfectly honest here. However, obviously, if you read a lot of comments, you'll see people saying that you need Resident Evil Code Veronica being remade, for Wesker's sake, for the new fans or whatever the heck, which that doesn't make any sense because, let's be honest, if you are begging for that spin-off game to be remade just for the sake of Wesker, then why not Resident Evil 1? Because that's his whole beginning. I don't understand. The narrative is breaking. And it's just so stupid. I don't understand. But anyway, the article does go on ahead and continue. Indeed, these outcomes are precisely what fans and journalists have speculated about, and there's been plenty of rumors and leaks to support such notions. But it still seems more likely that Resident Evil 5 will be up next on the remake chopping block. A major reason to believe this, aside from the fact that Capcom has only been remaking mainline entries thus far, is that Wesker is featured in the Resident Evil 4 remake, particularly so in the Separate Ways DLC. Which is interesting because a lot of people in comment sections will claim that's false. Albert Wesker is barely featured in Resident Evil 4 Remake, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is his first appearance in the Resident Evil Remake saga, which is absolutely true. And the four-bodying final scene of the Separate Ways DLC seems to be queuing up his role in Resident Evil 5, as he doubles down on his plan of mass extinction. It's impossible to know for sure, but it certainly seems like his presentation in the remake was designed with the intention of setting up the Resident Evil 5 story. It would therefore be strange to take a narrative detour in the interim, which, yeah, I can absolutely agree with that statement right there. They did introduce in the remake sense, a brand new character who overly appeared very ominous, who overly appeared very threatening, especially with his voice, and you could tell he was scheming something behind the scenes that he was not ready to share with the players, and obviously kept his own secrets from his hired mercenary, Ada Wong. So yeah, I do think people would love to see where that goes, and obviously we do know where that goes. I don't understand where this new audience people is coming from, or the new audience people that they claim to be. I mean, yes, obviously there are new people playing these video games, but of course, it doesn't weigh over the old fans. I don't understand that argument. Anyway, Gamerant does go on ahead and continue. Resident Evil 5 could be the next remake, but probably not the next Resident Evil game. Even if Capcom is remaking the first Resident Evil or a spin-off game, which definitely seems likely, it's safe to say that Resident Evil 5 will come first, or at least not too far behind. That said, it would be surprising if the Resident Evil 5 remake were to come onto the scene before Resident Evil 9, which is interesting because I didn't not like claim, but I did predict that, like, hey, maybe, what if, right? Resident Evil 5 remake came before Resident Evil 9, because Resident Evil 5 remake does have a chance to rewrite Albert Wesker's supposed death in the volcano at the very ending of the original 5, because it is not confirmed through the game that he is dead. I said this before, but I would love a confirmation through the game whether Albert Wesker is dead or not, maybe with an end credit cutscene or something like that. But with a supposed end credit scene, let's just say maybe instead of confirming that he's actually dead, maybe it could confirm that he's still alive, because let's be honest right here, we saw Albert in lava a lot in that volcano, and he was still, pushing. He was still going after Chris and Sheva, even though they were just about to escape on a helicopter. And he was down there in the lava, still welly alive. And he got hit by, obviously, 2 RPG rockets, which kind of exploded in a lava explosion-like thing, but who's to say that that actually killed him? This man has gone through a lot, let's just say, and he's survived through, again, a lot. And if he can supposedly survive in a pit of lava for a period of time, who's not to say that he can't take a little more RPG action? So obviously that can be elaborated on a little further on showing that whether he did or did not die. Obviously, Chris is the one that ended up supposedly killing him in his mind, of course, which he does mention to Albert's son, Jake, which kind of told the audience that yes, he is dead, but obviously we can think inside Chris's mind that Chris does believe that he killed him in a way, if that makes sense. But with that in mind, the article does go on ahead and continue. 2025 will mark 4 years since the last proper forward-moving entry in the Resident Evil franchise. Obviously, they're mentioning Resident Evil 8 Village, which left a lot up in the air with respect to the franchise's future, with the exception of the Shadows of Rose DLC, which may or may not be linked to the next Resident Evil. Nothing has come down the pipeline regarding the next steps in the overall Resident Evil narrative. Thus, Capcom is in something of an interesting position when it comes to the Resident Evil 5 remake. On the one hand, it seems like the most logical step, and there's definitely a strong financial incentive, which is absolutely true. It is the top-selling Resident Evil game, and it's been 4 years, and it's been confirmed obviously in the 2024 I forget what it was. It was like I don't know, some businessy meeting like thing where it did show all the total money that every game in its franchise has generated, and obviously Resident Evil 5 has been at the top for a long time and still is, which is absolutely wonderful to see given the performance of the recent remakes to get it to the market, but it would also mean further delaying the next original Resident Evil game. In other words, a Resident Evil 5 remake is probably around the corner, but it's probably not the first cab off the rank at the moment. Which, I mean, sure, right? It doesn't really matter, in my opinion, what game does end up coming next. Whether it is Resident Evil 9, whether it is Resident Evil 5 remake, it's obviously, I don't see why it matters a lot. Obviously in this case, if they did want to bring back Albert in Resident Evil 9, which I talked about a lot in the past, then you kinda would have to bring out Resident Evil 5 remake first, because That's the only chance you have to, if Capcom wanted to bring back Albert Wesker, rewrite his supposed death scene in the ending of the game. Which, that is the only reason why you'd need, a game coming out kind of first in that case. But as I did mention in the top of the video, there was some brain dead comments that I did want to read out to you guys in the comment section of Game Rant, and it comes from someone with a letter A in their name. Not Arnold here. Somebody else. I'll leave it up to you guys. But oh my God, this kid left 3 comments here, and oh my God, they are absolutely hilarious. So we have Arnold here saying, I'm more interested in the remakes. There's 3 remakes. I would like to see Resident Evil 1 again, Resident Evil 5, and Code Veronica. And this user goes on a completely unhinged rampage for literally no reason, and goes on ahead and replies to Arnold. The person made this post. I think they're referring to Arnold over here. I don't know where his mind is at. Seems he's not paying attention. Capcom said the next remakes are Zero and Code Veronica, which obviously that is false. They never came out and actually said that these are the next remakes they're going to go on ahead and dabble up on. In fact, they did mention that they weren't going to show you or confirm what remakes are coming up. They've actually came out and said that, and I'll show you guys on screen where they actually came out and said they're kind of going to keep it a secret and a little surprise for the fans and not tell you what's coming down the pipeline. And yeah, they go on ahead and continue downward. Would love to see a Resident Evil 5 remake. Have been thoroughly enjoying the remakes. Resident Evil 4 remake was great, or the game of the year for me. Absolutely agree with that. It's my personal favorite, best game in the entire world. And if Resident Evil 5 can do exactly what Resident Evil 4 remake did and play as, gameplay is very important too. Like the control scheme and animations, all of that, if they can do it just like 4, that would be fantastic. And Resident Evil 5 remake does have a chance of being replacing, in a way, Resident Evil 4 remake as the best game in the world, in my personal opinion. Anthony over here says, I have a soft spot for 5, as it was my first Resident Evil game. I remember playing couch co-op with my best friend growing up, but personally I can't wait for 9. First person really suits the Resident Evil world. 7 scared the S out of me, and I couldn't stop playing 8 when it came out. I must have played it 6 or 7 times, my god guy, wow, in a row, because I couldn't get enough of it. I hope 9 is next, and they keep the direction they've been going, but I'd love to bring back couch co-op with Resident Evil 5 remake, which is, I absolutely agree with everything right there. But then of course we have this account coming back and says goes on another unhinged rampage. Capcom confirmed Code Veronica and Zero are the next remakes, which again, that is false. I don't know if you're taking leaks as fact, or you consider leakers a subsidiary of Capcom. I don't understand what you're doing here. But then we have this reply, which is absolutely amazing. Capcom hasn't confirmed this. Your statement is untrue. Please research before attacking the journalist. There has been no word what's next from Capcom. They've only confirmed a Resident Evil game is in the making, with the Resident Evil 7 director coming out and having said that in Capcom Next, the summer event. Yeah, very true. Everything is absolutely true. To mention again, Capcom literally came out, I think it was like 2022 or 3, I think. I forget, where they came out and said they were not going to be mentioning what remakes they are going to be creating. And, oh my god. And then, I think this is the last one from this, yeah, this is the last one from this account. They commented 3 times from the looks of it, and each one of them is completely brain dead. Anyway, they cook. You haven't looked to see if Capcom have said it. You mean the statement that doesn't exist? Alright. You're just saying that. No. You are just saying that. You're just saying all of this, and you are going on ahead and claiming it kind of as fact in a way, without sourcing at all. Which I guess I can appreciate. because if it fits your narrative, it fits the narrative, right? Anyway, they cook further. Go look. Do you really want me to go look? Because it's not real. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not real. If I have to provide it here, I don't want to break your feelings, honestly. Because you haven't looked? What? What the heck are we doing here, man? You just said you would source. You'd source it, but you don't want to break their feelings? What do you mean by that? As I said, you're just doing it for your narrative here. A narrative that actually does not exist. Because you're coming out and saying, oh, I'll source it. Here, I'll source it for you. But I won't because I don't want to hurt your feelings. Not break, hurt. Oh my god. But come on, guys. What are we doing here, my guy? What are we doing? Because I really wish this account here went on ahead and sourced their input. Because their, I don't know, their information, I guess? Not information even, but their quote-unquote information doesn't even exist. And he does go on ahead and say, go look, and if we go look, there is nothing. There is literally nothing. Any of the official Capcom social medias, any of the official Resident Evil social medias, any of them, mention nothing about what you mentioned here, because it is just from you. And again, I'll give this account the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're referencing one of the leaks that mentioned that 0, 1, and Code Veronica are being remade. That's not confirmation, my guy. That's just a leak, and it is a leak. Because it's from a leaker. And I don't know if this person thinks leakers are part of the Capcom company as a subsidiary or something. I don't know. But you can obviously tell this comment and this account is ran by a 12-year-old. Because, oh my god, you guys let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of this absolute misinformation that this account is trying to spread here? Not a fan? Not a fan at all. But holy crap, it is absolutely unhinged. But with that in mind, thank you all so much for watching. If you guys have enjoyed, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate. Don't forget to like the video, comment down below what you think of this article, even that the account comment down below. Do you think Resident Evil 5 is around the corner? Because personally I do think so, and it is going to be one of the absolutely biggest games in the franchise and in the gaming industries of all time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that in mind, I will most certainly hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.